She slid the divorce papers across the polished mahogany table with a smirk of pure triumph, her eyes coldly declaring, "You are nothing without me." Without a word of protest, I picked up the pen and signed my name in silence. But when the judge read my actual net worth aloud in that sterile courtroom, every ounce of that smirk vanished, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. My name is Darius. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about patience, strategy, and the profound power of silence. It's the story of how I learned to disappear in plain sight while building an empire right under her nose. I met Jasmine 6 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party at an upscale rooftop lounge. She didn't just enter the room, she commanded it. Confidence radiated from her like a magnetic force. I was a struggling software developer, surrounded by finance professionals and socialites, feeling completely out of place. But she noticed me. She walked right over and said, "You look like you don't belong here either." It felt like an invitation into a secret club. We talked all night. She seemed genuinely interested in my dream of building a revolutionary app from the ground up. For a year, it was perfect. She'd bring me lunch at my cramped office, leave sweet notes on my keyboard, and curl up beside me while I coded for hours. I was convinced I had won the lottery. The change was almost invisible at first. A joking comment about my worn-out sneakers, a sigh when I talked about my work. "One day you'll make real money," she'd say, and I'd laugh it off. Then came the comparisons. Her father was a managing director at a hedge fund. Her brother was a restaurateur with a growing empire. My parents, 2 dedicated public school teachers, became a quiet embarrassment. "We just grew up very differently," she would say, and the statement slowly morphed from an observation to a verdict. The more I buried myself in my work, trying to reach the finish line I thought would make her proud, the more distant she became. My 12-hour coding sessions were now a personal affront. She started going out without me, girls' nights that stretched into weekends, then shopping trips and wellness retreats. The thoughtful girlfriend was gone, replaced by a near stranger who viewed our home as a hotel and me as the inconvenient staff. The turning point was a Friday night. I was supposed to be working late, but my meetings ended early. Hoping to reconnect, I picked up her favorite Thai food and headed home. The garage was open, and I could hear music and laughter spilling from the house. It wasn't the sound of a quiet evening. It was the sound of a celebration. I eased the door open and stood unseen in the hallway. There she was, Jasmine, in a black silk robe, holding a flute of champagne, surrounded by 3 of her friends. She was glowing. "I'm about to be free," she declared. One of her friends giggled. "Is he still clueless?" Jasmine rolled her eyes. "He thinks we're just going through a rough patch," she said, making mocking air quotes. "He's so passive." It's painful to watch. The laughter that followed was sharp and cruel. Then came the final blow. She took a sip of her champagne and said with utter disdain, "I mean, he has literally nothing. No savings, no backbone. Just this dumb little app that hasn't made a single dollar. After the divorce, I'll be back on the market with everything." Someone whistled in appreciation. I backed out of the house silently, closed the door, and sat in my old car in the dark garage. The smell of pad thai filled the car, a sad reminder of the gesture that now felt foolish. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, and in the profound silence, a new resolve was born. What she never knew was that the dumb little app had attracted a private investor group years prior. They didn't want the app itself. They wanted the proprietary framework I had built. They offered me a life-changing sum for exclusive rights and a consulting contract. I took the deal, but instead of buying luxury items, I did something else. I created a Delaware LLC. then another. I became a silent partner in promising startups, my expertise and capital, funneled through layers of corporate anonymity. The money never slept. It constantly moved, invested, and reinvested. The bank account she had access to was a carefully curated performance. It received a modest monthly salary from my main holding company, just enough to maintain the illusion. I drove the same decade-old sedan. I wore the same clothes. I was a ghost living a life she had already written off as a failure. While she mocked me to her friends, I was advising CEOs on high-level contracts. While she spent our money on designer handbags, I was acquiring a stake in a fledgling AI company. My fortress had no front door, and she was too busy painting me as the court jester to even look for one. The day after the garage incident, I began my real work. I reached out to a retired divorce attorney who met me in a quiet park. No phones, no emails. He gave me two names, a forensic accountant and a private investigator. I paid them in cash from a safe I kept in my private office, a small, rented space she never knew existed. The accountant traced patterns in our joint account I never could have seen, highlighting thousands spent on gifts for others, spa days never mentioned, dinners for two where I was absent. The investigator provided dates, times, and names. There wasn't just hint of infidelity. There was a paper trail. A weekend retreat was actually a romantic getaway. I stored every piece of evidence in a physical fireproof lockbox. I kept a handwritten journal, documenting every dig, every lie. I became the perfect mark. I leaned into the character of the defeated, oblivious husband. I'd ask her hesitant questions about divorce, feigning fear. "Do you think it would be messy?" I'd ask. She'd pat my hand condescendingly. "Don't worry, Darius. I'll be fair." The more pathetic I seemed, the more reckless she became. She left her email open once, a chain with her lawyer discussing which assets to target. She thought I was blind. She was just looking in the wrong direction. The papers arrived on a Tuesday. On top was a pink sticky note in her flawless cursive. "Don't worry, I'll be gentle. J." I stared at it, feeling a strange calm. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I signed where my legal team advised, without a single alteration. Her petition was bold. The house, spousal support, a division of all marital assets. I gave it all to her without a fight. Later, a mutual friend sent me screenshots from a group chat. There was the sticky note, photographed and shared like a trophy. "Finally did it. Poor guy thinks he's getting the house. LOL. Another replied, "He's going to fold." No fight in him. They were all laughing. They were all so sure. Little did they know, the house was just a set piece. The real assets were already far away. The courtroom was cold and formal. Jasmine entered like a queen. She didn't glance my way. Her lawyer began his theatrics, painting a picture of a long-suffering wife who had financially carried her deadbeat husband. He presented bank statements, credit card bills, all carefully selected to show her financial burden. "She is not asking for anything unreasonable, Your Honor," he said. "She is simply asking for a fair outcome." Jasmine finally turned, met my eyes, and allowed herself that familiar, triumphant smirk. Then the judge interrupted. "Counselor, I see no mention of deferred assets or private holdings. Are we to understand these are not present?" Jasmine's lawyer looked confused. "Your Honor, to our knowledge, the respondent holds no significant financial interests." The judge turned to me. "Mr. Carter, do you dispute this?" My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we submitted a supplemental financial disclosure this morning. It includes full documentation of Mr. Carter's business holdings, silent partnerships, and interests in 3 separate trust entities, all acquired during the marriage, all verified by an independent forensic auditor." The air left the room. Jasmine's head snapped toward me. Her smirk was gone. Her lawyer shuffled papers frantically. The judge called a recess. When we reconvened, Jasmine looked small and pale. The judge's voice was dry as he read the auditor's report. He listed companies, trusts, valuation figures. The number he stated was so far beyond anything she had imagined that a gasp escaped her lips. The judge turned to her filings. I find clear and intentional misrepresentations concerning the marital estate. There is evidence of intent to conceal. Her lawyer tried to object, but the judge silenced him. Given the concealment and the fact that Mr. Carter's holdings are legally separate property, tied to premarital intellectual property, your petition is flawed. Your request for spousal support is denied. Your request for asset division is denied in its entirety. The gavel fell. It was over. She found me in the parking lot, her composure shattered. Darius, please wait. We can talk about this. We were good once, remember? I stopped and looked at her. No, Jasmine, I said, my voice calm. We can't. You didn't want a partner. You wanted a victim. But I was never that. I got into my car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing alone in the empty parking lot. The sharp heels, the expensive dress. It all looked like a costume now. There was no audience left, no one to applaud, no one to control.